My name's Adele Onyango, and welcome to another episode of Legally Clueless. No, seriously, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. Hey you, welcome to episode 322 of Legally Clueless. Here's what's coming up in a bit.
Then he says, I want to send you something and I want you to apply as soon as you possibly can. Once you do, let me know. Then I look at the job description. This says a county executive committee member. So I came out feeling very confident. The MCAs, being MCAs, they responded and said, she feels like she has really good English or Queen's English. She's coming here with a lot of English. These people, especially bloggers, wrote a lot of information that was very untrue. And the information that was coming on was that this is governor's girlfriend. We have a line item on the budget written other expenses. And this is where the money for corruption is budgeted for. First 2 weeks I came in and sit and brought a brown bahasha of 100,000. So I ask, what is this for? So this is a way of getting me in to be in bed with them.
That is Marita. We're going to catch up with her later in this episode. First and foremost, welcome, especially if you're a newbie. Welcome to the fam. Audio episodes like this go out every single Monday. If you are an OG member, I have nothing but love for you. If you're a member of this family, I would really appreciate if you check out and share our brand new show called For Mannerless Women. It's a show hosted by me, designed to help African women meet their best selves. So we have my personal doctor on there. We have a death doula teaching us a lot about life through death. And the most recent episode is all about childhood trauma, which, as you know, especially if you're doing tons of healing work, you will never truly be free unless you heal that childhood trauma. So I sat down with a therapist and we got to understand more about childhood trauma, how it's limiting you, and how it's even popping its head in your romantic relationships. Head over to our YouTube channel. There's a link in the show notes for you to check out For Mannerless Women. I hope you're doing fantastic though, and I hope your week, if you're listening to this on Monday, has started off well. I am on a high because I got to spend Saturday with 60 members of this community at our wellness talk. 60. That was incredible. It was such a vibe. Y'all are incredibly funny. The comments were hectic. And it was just so wonderful to be in a space with like-minded women who were focused on figuring out career success. Our next talk is going to really help those of you who are entrepreneurs like me. The countdown is on. And if you want to make sure you attend our next wellness talk, subscribe for a newsletter so it doesn't pass you by. A link to do that is in the show notes. Now, I've been on a bit of half leave. And this week, the midweek teas and Ask a Therapist return. I just completely underestimated how hard and draining it was going to be to produce and host a whole new show for Mannerless Women. So I literally felt my body fold. And ever since I had that burnout experience in 2023, when my body folds, I listen and I drop everything and I rest. I share this not only to let you know that those shows are coming back this week, but also as a reminder to you to just take that guilt-free rest now. Your body needs it. And if you don't listen to your body when it's whispering to you that it's tired, you will listen when it starts shouting. And most of the time, that comes with a lot of physical health problems. But back to this episode. In this episode, we listened to Marita's story about getting into the county government when she was just 28 years old and how much of a nightmare that was. 100 African stories on Legally Clueless. Stories from Africa.
My name is Marita Moji Agufana. I come from Kenya, specifically Western Kenya, from the county government of Vihiga, a place called Majengo. Vihiga sub-county, a place called Majengo. But I have not grown up there. Most of my growing up was in Kakamega County, which I love so much. Growing up in Kakamega was pretty cool. It's such a cool, vibrant place. Then it seemed like a small town and everyone knew each other. My mom runs, or she ran, it's still running, a small salon in town. So my sisters and I used to go and work in the salon. She used to emphasize and insist that you have to work here, wash towels, do some blow dries to make some money to go back to school with. So it was really amazing. And I went to Butere Girls, which is just now Kakamega County, but it's then it was in Butere Mumias district. We pretty much knew each other. We knew the kid of this family or that family and whatnot. And it was simple. Grew up in a basic kawaida middle class family, let me say that. And you could see the effort our parents put in to raise us. I come from a blended family of 5 kids and of course 2 parents, so 7 of us. But well, it was pretty nice. It was pretty good. When I say blended family, I mean that my mom had myself and my bro before now meeting my now dad, because my biological dad passed on while I was 2 years old. So later on, she decided to remarry. And when she remarried, she found my stepdad with his children. Then we just came together and formed one big, beautiful family. And we've grown up like that since then. So schooling, I went to school in Star Academy. That by then, Star Academy was the it. It was the school that everyone would want to go to. And I remember my dad had really worked so hard to ensure that we all went to Star Academy. It was something. You would get to Kakamega and hear this person came from Star, and people would, okay. Then I went to Butere Girls High School. Girls High School is one school that I love. I think it really shaped me. And from Form 1, I was given leadership roles. Like from Form 1 end of term, coming into Form 2, I was surprisingly just called by the boarding mistress and said, you know what, you're going to be the junior boarding prefect. And I had not done any campaign. I had not done what I said. Oh, okay. And that's how it is. And that's how I moved on to being the prefect until Form 4. So I have the privilege of not working that Form 1. You know, those schools in Western, where that one. I don't can write a story. You know, we used to slash, we used to sweep. Bujere Girls was so big, so you'd sweep the drive for such a pretty long time and watch the classes and all that. So that was labor, but really, through that labor, I feel like we really were molded and built. And through that leadership opportunity, then you're shaped and straightened. So Butere Girls was really beautiful as well. And I think I loved being there. When I finished high school, I think my interest was because I thought I still do love travel. So I thought I'd suit in the tourism sector and whatnot. There's so many interests. But now, in retrospect, I just feel and I knew that I do love speaking. I do love being in front of people for some reason. And we used to drive to our shags now in Ugenya, where my stepdad comes from. And he used to ask us, what do you want to be when you grow up? I used to say, I want to be a news anchor. I want to be a news broadcaster. I kept saying it and saying it and saying it. My sister used to start to stick to, I want to be a doctor. And she eventually became one. But after I finished high school, that's when I discovered that I didn't follow through, and I should have followed through what my dreams and desires were. I went into campus, Daystar University, and I did community development. Many years later, I still am very passionate about communication and anything to do with communication, especially public speaking. I did ComDev and I went into the NGO field, but it was still good, still beautiful, but there's still something in me that just says, you know, I need to be somewhere just speaking and speaking and speaking. So during that first day of class at school, I should have gone into a communication class. Out of campus, I get a job at Westlands with an organization called International Cultural Youth Exchange, where we now have volunteers from Scandinavian countries just coming into the country, and we place them in different projects all over the country so that then they are able to serve. And we are able to also just take volunteers from here to other different parts of the Scandinavian world to be able to again just serve and do projects. That's my first job. And then the expectation of campus, you know, I thought, I used to dream that I'll leave campus and get this good job that is paying me 50,000 when I'm able to live in a nice apartment in Langat. Shock. You come out and you're given a check of 15K. You cannot even manage your rent. Well, that's the first job that I got. Did it for a while, then now kept moving on into different species. So the last job I had, I was a program officer at an organization called Youth Alive Kenya. And I worked with women in the slums, women domestic workers and women entrepreneurs. So we had different programs. The first program was the Wezesha Jamii. Wezesha Jamii were just trying to change policy at the NHIF and NSSF level because we felt that after our study was done, many women in these informal settlements know nothing about these spaces. And we thought and knew that these spaces could help them, especially NHIF, NSSF, just saving up for their retirement and, of course, medical services. So we really spoke to the managers at these two institutions, just informing them, wanting them to bring down their officers to the slums that we were in so that they can have awareness meetings, awareness levels with the women. And we pushed that agenda for a while. And we also had a care program where we were just talking to men in the community about the importance of women doing care work and let it be appreciated, because women do so much and it's not counted as work. So just creating that awareness. And we worked together with Oxfam. And we did quite a bit of that. And I must say, we reached out to many women and just created the awareness, and many of them joined the institutions. For us, it was more of NHIF and NSSF bringing down services to the community and making it at policy level. That's where I was at, trying to influence, making it friendly to these people. I get a phone call from my cousin who lives in Vihiga. He's a principal of a school. And he tells me, hi, there's this opportunity that I want you to apply. And I ask what? In fact, he had called me so many times, but my phone was far away because I was deep in the slum of Korogocha, I remember. And he was so pissed off when I called, why am I calling you and you're not picking? And he says, I want to send you something and I want you to apply as soon as you possibly can. Once you do, let me know. Then I look at the job description. This says County Executive Committee member. I look at it, I go to the constitution, I look at what this is all about and say, wow, okay, see, I want you to apply. He was firm and said, I'm going to do it. I then applied, sent my application to the required email. Then he told me, okay, so let me pick it up from here. Then there was, of course, conversations back at Vihiga that now this one has applied, she comes from this place and whatnot, and she suits. And I left it at that. But then after that, that's when, a lot of progress went on from there. So the next steps after application, this county executive committee position really has a lot of influence. And I had said earlier that, I came into application of this job because the governor had not met the two-third gender rule. So after application, I needed to look at my chapter 6, that is the integrity bit of who I am, going to EACC help and clear everything, CRB. So I started the processes without even knowing whether I'm going to get the job or not. I moved by faith. So I went and cleared all these things that was required of the job. And after about 3 weeks of the application, I get a call from the chief of staff, who also acted as the personal assistant to the governor. And at this point, he does not tell me that it's an interview. It was just like almost of an ambush. He asked me, do you have an hour? I want to just ask a few questions from you, and I want to know if you can be able to answer them. So at this point, he continues into the interview, and it was a rainy evening. I was in the office. It was noisy. I just felt it was not the correct time to have the interview, but it was sort of, are you ready for this? And I went on with the interview. Apparently, the governor was just listening in without me knowing. So I answered the questions to the best of my ability. 2 weeks in, I was invited to go to Vihiga for the validation by the county assembly, vetting by the county assembly. And I, again, started preparing for that position because I had now applied for the Youth, Gender, Culture and Sports and Social Services County Executive Committee member. So 2 weeks in, I went in for the vetting at the county assembly. The same way they vet the cabinet secretaries at the parliament buildings is the same way. So you are sat at a seat where the speaker is seated there and the members, and also the public is allowed to come in and sit to listen in to you. And of course, there's a lot of recording that goes on to just listen. Is she fit really? And of course, yeah. So a lot of people came for my interview, for my vetting. You go in, they already have a set of questions prepared for you, and it took quite a bit, maybe 2 hours. They want to know you, who you are, where you went to school, what experience do you bring on board when you're coming in. But again, the most interesting one is could I be able to speak in the local dialect? They put me to a test to speak in the local dialect, and as I had mentioned earlier, my growing up was not really in Vihiga, where my father comes from. My growing up was in different parts of the country, and mostly Kakamega. So I was put to the test to speak Kimaragoli, and that's when, well, yeah, things hit the fan. But I could be able to articulate Kisa, my mother's dialect, and I spoke about that. They wanted to know, since I am going to be a cultural minister, if I can be able to interact with the wazes and the kijiji and the women out there. What about, so they were specific about the docket. If I get into as a CC of culture, am I going to come up with policies and procedures that are going to just shape the department? So that, among many others. And of course, there was a bit of that interference of, are you sure you are merited for this? Do you have a godfather? And those extras. And sometimes the members of county assembly just want to Tisha, you threaten a bit to see whether you'll shake or whatnot. Of course, touch a bit of constitution, talk about gender issues, so many of that. So the questions really mainly on what you are going to do. But of course, there's side shows. I was feeling really confident. Somehow I felt that I gave my best. At the gallery, I had the privilege of my mom and my aunt attending. They just wanted to see how is it. So when I come out, my mom tells me, even if you ask me those questions, cannot answer them. The constitution, you know that, okay, you talked about Phoebe as CEO and all these things, women who did gender, what, how? And I was like, okay. So I came out feeling very confident. But, the MCAs, being MCAs, they responded and said, oh, she feels like she has really good English or Queen's English. She's coming here with a lot of English. So I think for them, the problem was she's coming here with a lot of English. But as for me, I felt like, oh, well, I put in a good foot forward. But I knew that it's a matter of now the decision by them to allow me to come in and do the work or not. I think the governor was seemingly in a hurry to fill up and start work because he could not start without cabinet. This one did not take time. I think about a week, if I remember very well, to the period of, because this was 2017 October, period of about 3 days a week. Yeah, I was informed that the assembly has allowed me to go through. And it's now time for the governor to now swear in his cabinet. At this time, I had just turned 28. So I get sworn in, and this is the first time I am meeting the governor because I had not interacted or met him at a personal level. So once you get sworn in, we quickly have to have our first cabinet meeting. We have to get into our departments. What are we supposed to do? Where did the previous government leave? And all these things. So I felt extremely overwhelmed. In fact, the first 1 month, I lost weight without trying. I did not try, I did not work out, I was not eating right. It just shed because this was, how can I call it? This was a new hectic thing. And of course, the first 3 days, since people did not really know who I was, and mostly because I had not grown up there. And at this level, people at the county, the general population at the county, want to relate with someone that they have seen, they have known. You've gone to, I'll give an example of the schools in Vihiga. You've probably gone to Mululu Primary or Modasa Academy there. Then you've gone to a school for Koli girls, and then you're just around the home area. Then you've gone to Kaimosi University, for example, and people know you in that. But when you get out to look for things and education outside, people tend to feel like, but we don't know her. And I remember actually at the county assembly, they said, but we don't know you. Then I said, but you cannot blame me. If my parents were able to at least take me to schools elsewhere, then now I'm coming back to serve. I don't think there's a problem. But on coming, since the knowledge and understanding of who I am was very limited, these people, especially bloggers, wrote a lot of information that was very untrue. And the information that was coming on was that this is governor's girlfriend. The family has blackmailed him so that she's on board. we don't know her and many things, and the blogs go on and on and on. One of a close member of county assembly shared a link with me, and after he shared, this is what he said: I need you to know that this is politics and you will have to go through it. Let nothing worry you. That's what he said. When I opened the link, oh my goodness, I was shocked. It was an evening. I remember it was a weekday evening at my cousin's place in Mbale in Vihiga. I had not even officially moved from Nairobi yet. I was still planning now my movement from Nairobi to now go settle in Vihiga. And I read it and it shook me. I was literally shaken. This information had really spread all over, and what world is this? That was going through my mind. What world is this? What world is this? I quickly sent to a few of my family members, and there was a lot of encouragement. I said, okay, you will have to learn that this is it. This is how rough it can get. So brace yourself. So I had a lot of encouragement, even now just coming to settle into work after all that. And even the governor himself called me to his office and told me, listen, many people really, I just didn't know at the level of which people envy that position. Yeah, I just thought this is normal kawaida position. What is wrong? People really want those positions, and when they see you get them, there's a lot of strife on that, so they'll find anything to write about you. The experience in the workplace was really rough, but also I must admit that there are people who a few people were welcoming. They were there was a high anticipation. Who is this and what is she going to offer us? We were now transitioning from the first level of devolution, or rather the first phase of devolution. So the first 5 years. So we are going into the second phase now, the second 5 years. And at this point, the initial governor was not there. This is a new governor. So we are coming in, picking up from a government that probably was also just learning, because now devolution had come in through the constitution and it was fresh from the first phase of government. So the second, it's still very fresh. So there's a lot of learnings to do, and there's a lot of hostility, political hostility, in that when you're coming in with a fresh governor, the rest of the employees are still coming from the previous administration. So we have loyalists of the previous governor. We have a way of doing things, whether wrong or right, by the previous regime. Picking up all that was hard. We had no laws, no policies. Things were just being done like you're running your own kitchen. Navigating through it took us a lot of time, because we felt like we are the enemy of the people. And now the governor has just appointed his CECs and chief officers, or equivalent to the PS. So the rest of the workforce, if you're having a workforce in the county of probably 3,000 people, and probably only 25 of you are coming in with a new governor. So how are you supposed to change the minds of people? The specific instance I can recall very well is, we are now ready, as the CEC of Youth and Sports and Gender, we have to do sports activities at the ward level. And there's no law at the county level that even guides the entire process. There's no procedure on how we are going to do these things. We have 25 wards. We have different sporting activities. There's so many, from volleyball to football to whatnot. And people want to see that the governor is actually intentional with creating or bringing out talent of the young people at the ward level. Do we have a sports policy that is not national, but it's county, very specific to us? We do not. So how have you been running the other sports activities? And now I call the director of sports. So I call him and tell him, do we have any document? Give me a file. Let me see where you're starting from. This guy comes to my office and complains. Just, unajua madam, madam, here we have just been creating committees and giving the MCAs money. Then I'm like, so okay, just do for me something very quick. Draft for me just a direction, or sort of how you want this thing to look like. Even it can be a 3-pager. I can pick it up from there. The guy brings me a 1-page with 5 sentences. Before I even begin the job, I was so tired. And at that time, the governor tells me, now we need to start this. show me some guidelines. So I sit down with the help of a friend. We draft up some guidelines. And that's when he tells me, this is really good. But remember, we are drafting guidelines. We're going to use, let me say, 1 million or what. We're going to use about 20 million, 25 million to do these sports. But my worry, my fear, my concern was, how do we ensure that we actually spend this money to correct use, to what it's supposed to do, improve the talent? And you cannot improve a talent within one event. This money, we have to ensure that we have a long-term strategy of it. And now I'm here in office and I have to do that. It was chaotic. And that's the instance I knew I'm dealing with people at director level, but I'm alone. The challenge of having huge expenditure and budgeted corruption is real. I remember now starting to interact with a document that is now the budget. We have a line item on the budget written other expenses. And this is where the money for corruption is budgeted for. Now, Vihiga County up to now is known for having a very good football team, Vihiga United Club, and then the ladies are the Vihiga Starlets. Vihiga Starlets have actually brought out very good footballers who have also played for the national team. Now, Vihiga United was a brainchild of the former governor. They were doing very well, but 90% of their financial support was coming out of the county, with no regulations, with no policy. The first week of getting into the county, I am pulled by the executive committee of Vihiga United. They call me at a very famous hotel in Vihiga called Sosa, very beautiful. We sit and they tell me, Madam, we need your help. We are running this team, but we do not have money. We are running this team and we need money. Every weekend, they sort of have to go for sports. They have to come to Nairobi, they have to go. And they were doing well. It was like the pride of the county. If you drop them, it was such a heavy political balance for the governor, for myself. And we had to try and sustain status quo in a very, very rogue way. And my worry would be, okay, even if the Auditor General comes, you'll be in cuffs. Please show me how you are running a team. As a county, this is not your responsibility. So I remember sitting down with the executive committee of the club and asking them, really, what other plans do you have to sustain this team without the county? They were blank, they were blue. Do you have jerseys? Do you have what? What is your interaction? Where is a document to show that maybe the county has pledged 5% of the sports budget to go to Vihiga United? Because as it is, there were so many cries and hues that the county is only supporting one team or two teams. And there are so many teams, these basketball teams and all that. Trying to get out of that mess was hectic. We sat, I remember, with the legal team. We drafted a memorandum of understanding. I sat with the executive committee and I really wanted them to come up with strategies that they can raise funds, come to look for support. I even reached out to FIFA officials here. What could we do and what not? All these spaces, from those football institutions to even the executive committee of that team, they're all corrupt. So everyone is looking at how they can mint money. They don't really care about the growth of the team. So I come in and I'm caring about the growth of the team, but I am alone. Again, this is a lonely journey. No one is coming with me and telling me, can we be able now to look for funds? I even tell them, print as many jerseys as possible. Let's see how we can get the communities buy these jerseys. Let's have your kitty go in there. And there are FIFA officials at the ground level who just want to mint and mint and mint from the county. So this was hard. It was chaotic, but eventually what we did, we got a memorandum of understanding with them that we tried to implement. I sat down with Exco, tried to create strategies that will help them raise funds without the county. And I moved to another department and left it running with my former colleague. I found, as I said, navigating the challenge of coming out of budgeted corruption is truthfully difficult, especially if you're alone. As I have told you, you have a workforce of about 3,000 to 4,000 people who are used to a certain way of doing things. So you alone, your voice is not enough. As I said, this is where I got into trouble. I'll be vulnerable with this. I decided that I want to leave a legacy. And I do not want the money that is under my leadership to be used the way it used to be used with the other CEC. Because there were stories, they used to carry money in boots, 1 million in boots of their cars. And I said, this is not it. From a community development perspective, I came in with a clear mind that I want to make a difference. I want to impact the lives of young people that I'm dealing with. So I went ahead and looked for solution from Safaricom. And I said, from my previous knowledge of the NGO field, there's a way Safaricom gives you a system where then you're able to budget and say, on these activities, on the sporting activities, we have 10 teams. And the term teams, we are buying them good quality jerseys and football kits. And from the term teams, we will be able to pick. I even created a structure where we could now have identification of talent to shoot them up at national level, to even shoot them up to be identified by even Manchester. I was that ambitious that we can get talent from the really, really location, ward. But this is how we are going to do it. So my director had told me previously they used to form committees, ward committees, where it has the ward administrator who's a representative of the county government, it has the chief representative of the national government, then it has the MCA. So I asked, if you're going to give $1 million bob to a committee and we don't even have regulations on how that is going to go, how are you going to manage this money? So that's when I realized a big chunk of the money, for example, you've given a team $1 million bob to run the sporting activities. Almost 400,000 of that money will go to the MCA's pocket. So 600 remains to run the event. And then the 600 adult, it goes to buy soda and cake, and it's over. And then the chief, the ward administrators and whatnot, they find some money and put here. Then you're going to pay the players 5,000 shillings. And I thought, this is a very unfair system. So I reached out to Safaricom. They gave me a system. We could be able to put that money in that system and it could be able to pay direct. I got contacts of all the players. I got contacts of all the team. I got their management. That is where I got into trouble. This is how I got into trouble. The MCAs knew what I was going to do and they were not pleased. So the chair of the youth committee moved a motion of impeachment for the county executive committee member spots, and they went ahead and they impeached me on this is sometime June, July, August of 2018. Unanimously, only 1 or 2 MCAs did not go through with it, and they said this one is not giving us, and they brought all these accusations, incompetence, whatnot, and mainly because now I was guarding the resources, so that then I feel these young people are actually benefiting from this, and we have a long-term plan. And I explained to them, but these people were up in arms. They were not happy. So they moved ahead, went ahead, did the impeachment. I survived throughout the time after going to court. So I rushed to court and got a stay order. And it was crazy. I remember 2018, before I was transferred now to education, it had been crazy. I was on the news. I remember one time my parents, my family members, they have seen, I vividly remember on NTV Ken Mijungu saying that there's a CEC who stolen 18 million. So I was impeached together with my finance colleague who were thrown out. These people, just because you were trying to find a system. And when you go, it was more of, the accusation was that I was stealing public funds. But the truth is, we were trying to ensure that it actually is used for intended purpose. So I was guarding so that the money is not used for corruption. And that's the trouble I got in. Now the County Government Act has given this MCA's power, which I think it's now time to review some of those acts and legislations that we have regarding around these areas. It was the first time, second time, and I think as processes and time goes by, people will be able to realize that there are some areas of the Constitution and some of these acts that need to be amended. So when they go to the extent of allegations, I'll tell you the truth, most of the time they don't have solid proof. And sometimes they want to impeach you on the basis of, because the Constitution talks about incompetence and few other things that are a bit vague. They're not very specific. So when you're saying incompetent, what things under incompetence? What has she shown that is competent? When you're saying whatnot. So the accusations were basically emotional. So the papers, I remember Citizen and a few papers wrote me to be arrogant. That is according to how the MCAs had written or talked about me. And this is because the arrogance now comes in because I have probably refused to sit down with him. And you remember, in my department, the first 2 weeks I came in and sit and brought a brown bahasha of 100,000. So I ask, what is this for? So this is a way of getting me in to be in bed with them. So I ask, you're having trouble with Vihiga United and you're giving me 100,000 and I have done absolutely nothing. I just came to office 2 weeks ago. So remember now, since I am so mad at the incompetence of my team at the department, the team at my department is now liaising with the county assembly just because they gave me 100,000 shillings and I refused. Just because I called them out you cannot make me proper regulations on how we're going to run this thing. You really can't. You cannot be able to procure kits that you can't. So these people are not happy with me. I have refused their 100,000. I have called them out on their incompetence. So they go to bed with the MCs and they say, you know what, get her out. She's not playing ball. The movement to another department is solidly the decision of the governor. And I really am grateful. Looking back, I'm grateful that happened, because a department at the county level like youth, gender, sports, culture and social services, only two are devolved. That is culture and sports. So you have youth and gender that is still function of the national government, and you still have youth at the ground level looking at you. So that department was not properly structured. You have all these responsibilities, but you've been given power on front door but denied on the back door. So there's so much that was not. So when all this went on and EACC was brought in, they did their investigations. They found that actually there's not even 1 shilling on my account or any private account alleged from the 18 million that was supposed to go for this. And then after a while, the governor thought, let me change up the entire cabinet to sub-different departments. And it's mainly, well, sometimes it's very political. It's just that I want probably CEC or chief officer to handle this so that I'm able to, have my own way or my own say in this. So he has viewed our personalities, he has seen how we are working and whatnot. So being moved to education was such a great pleasure and honor. This is where I felt like now I'm adding value because of structure. And he changed up all of us except the finance. Yes, I remember I really resisted it, but eventually when I warmed up to it, I found education is more structured. Why? When I go through all this with the MCAs, why don't I quit? In fact, at some point I had written my resignation letter and I said, what is this mess? I could quickly go back to Nairobi and continue with my life. I'm not supposed to die here. But of course, there are voices. You sit, you chill, you wait, you pray, you ask. Number one, so many of your family members are just happy that you're there. They are priding that they can call their daughter a minister or stuff like that. Yeah. Number two, it was for me, I had two options, either fight or flight. And I did not flight immediately because I felt like I would be showing the world or showing the people around that, okay, it's like I did this. It's fine. I did this. I accept. I go. Then I felt like, but I cannot live like this. There's so much that I came to offer. There's so much that I came to give. Maybe through this mess, I can find a way where there's value that can be seen. Some of these positions are so thankless. Many of these government positions are very, very thankless. And I know even right now as a country, we are pushing and fighting and, all this. But there's somewhere where a government officer is actually doing their best. It's not being seen. So when you ask why don't I quit, I felt like, let me push past this. And to be sincere, up to today, I'm so happy that I pushed past that struggle, past that, because it now built something in me that I'm now saying now. Resilience, determination, so much more. So many people ask me then, did it destroy or did it build? I choose to say with a lot of confidence that that situation, that experience built me more than it really put me down. Now, politics is very interesting. During that transition and that period is over, politics again is very interesting. The governor or, at whatever level, people put their political interests at heart and first. Remember, I told you that people did not know me. I did not campaign for the governor. So politically, I did not have anything to offer the governor. Yeah. That's it. So he's looking at the future and asking, in this region, in this Vihiga, in this Vihiga constituency, in this place, will this girl really add value? And then, of course, remember, times go and changing. Things change as time goes by, and people will whisper to his ear, that one will not add value to you politically. You need people who will add value to you politically. And it got to a point now, there's a lot of, information getting into his head that we're not adding value to him. And we so far were the best team. When in the beginning we came for our training at Kenya School of Government, the caliber that we were, most of us were from private sector. Most of us just wanted to make a change. I was the youngest, but my colleagues were in their 50s. Some of them were just coming to retire, so they were coming to service. Some of them were coming from World Health Organization. The CEC health was coming from World Health Organization. He had actually just come from Liberia. The one for housing was coming from Botswana. He had lectured and did quite a bit. The one from administration had run a lot of government procedures and policies. So we were a good team. We were just not politically correct. Yes, politically correct. We needed to be shouting about, politics, and, some dirty games here, some lies here. And we really struggled to to do that politicking. And he got a lot of noise, especially from the county assembly, that these CECs of yours are not doing you good. So administratively, we really were pushing for policy change, improvements, but politically, we were not sitting correct with him. So he had to make changes when he was going in to run for his second term, and we were all out. And we have to be wary. I cannot remember which scholar said that when people start admiring going into government and not going into business, entrepreneurship, and things then there's trouble. There's trouble in that country, and I think that's now where we are at as a nation.
Catch more African stories in the next episode of Legally Clueless. Man, first, I'm so thankful to Marita for sharing the story. I think I'd posted something about governance, and her cousin is the one who said, hey, you have got to get my cousin on your show because she experienced the rot in government and you just have to hear her story. So I'm very thankful that she came onto the podcast. It's so sad to hear how rotten our government is, and not just at the top, but like through and through county level. And sometimes when I speak up about political or governance issues, I get asked if I intend to run for office or intend to work in government. And one, I just can't afford to run for office because our politics is just so expensive, intentionally, to lock out good leaders, which means you have to get funding from people who will compromise your values. Because Kenyans just don't believe in funding their preferred candidate. We saw that in Softy, the movie. And if you're listening and you're not from Kenya, is that the same case in your country? Like, we had this candidate, Boniface Mwangi, running for office in an area that he had grown up in. He has had years of visible work fighting for the rights of Kenyans. He asked Kenyans to fund his campaign, and quite a few did. Quite a few were mocking him because they were like, oh, you don't have money. Imagine. We need a complete overhaul of our mental and how we view governance and politics. But anyway, can't afford to run for office. And then if you work in government, as you're hearing from Marita, and you have integrity, you're punished for it. What the hell? I want to know your thoughts first. What did you connect with in Marita's story? Drop those in the comments on whatever platform you're listening to this on. And speaking of comments, my goodness, can I just shout out all of you who've been commenting? Firstly, someone called Jose, who always comments on our Spotify section. I truly appreciate you. I appreciate Nimu. There's Helen Thairu, Naomi. There's somebody who goes by the name of Bloom, Mumbi, Kevin, Yaruri, Angie, Valentine Joki. Oh my goodness. I completely appreciate each and every one of you. So make sure you drop a comment, subscribe, like, share this podcast with your friends so that our family can keep growing. Finally, thank you so much for being part of this family. I appreciate you. And I truly believe you have everything it takes to heal. That's it for this episode of Legally Clueless. You can share this podcast with your friends. You can keep it for yourself. I'm not judging. Just make sure you're here next week for the next episode.